Oh, he did a painted portrait of me. Right. God, you used an old photo of me where I don't have any facial hair. I'm like in high school. I was totally expecting something super weird. like me spanking Skelly or something. Oh no! Oh no! That's me. Who's that sexy guy?
We're painting Proko, as you can tell from the intro and the thumbnail and title. If you don't know who Proko is, I'm sure you do. He's an artist instructor. He has a huge YouTube platform where he's kind of an ambassador for fine arts. His website, proko.com, also is a resource for artists, online courses. He hosts other artists and instructors that share their content. But one of the issues with online institutions for fine arts is kind of this lack of feedback and the critique and feedback loop that in-person art classes and ateliers and art schools provide, and it's their stride is this community aspect with constant feedback. So Proko has updated their website. It's kind of why I'm promoting the genesis of this video. Their new website really lends its hand to this communication aspect and feedback loop, which I keep saying. I'm an instructor on there. I'm gonna be posting more content and talking to everyone on there. So go check it out, sign up and see for yourself. It's a wonderful resource. And this painting video is normal that I do from absolute start to absolute finish, everything in between. Stan had no idea I'm painting him. It was just a surprise. I thought it would be funny. I've been watching Stan's videos for years. They've helped me in my own practice, so I thought it was full circle. But this is just a regular old painted video. And at the end, actually, we're gonna FaceTime with Stan, and he's gonna give me some feedback and some critique, which I rarely get for my paintings and my practice, some objective feedback, which is kind of the theme of this whole video anyway. So let's begin. And we're off. The absolute beginning. This is some of my favorite parts with the whole painting process. I really love the preparational steps. I like to be organized, and I really like to love and caress whatever I'm painting on. So this is something a little different I don't always do. This is actually a piece of masonite. It's pretty high quality stuff, and you could, paint on anything. Sometimes it's canvas, sometimes it's canvas panels or wood panels. I had this kind of bigger piece of masonite around, and I wanted to make my own custom sized kind of painting surface. And masonite is great. This is actually gonna be a bigger portrait than I usually do. The size of this masonite board is 14 by 18 inches. So it's gonna be a big, juicy one. But I'm just going through the steps, sanding down the surface, preparing it. We're using some gesso, which is just an acrylic medium to help bind and ground whatever paint goes on top. And we just do a few layers, sand in between. I think there was a total of maybe 4 layers of, putting down coats, sanding, letting it dry, more coats, sanding. I like to paint on a very smooth surface, and this is just part of the process. Smooth as a baby's bottom. And like I said, I'm a big fan of this idea of preparation. I love to prepare, I love to get organized, and I know that, the actual true secret of improvement is actually just putting in the work, putting in time. So I always find an excuse to, kind of drag out the project and do many little studies. So here, for example, I'm just doing a quick 90-minute sketch of the portrait and just some graphite, real simple, nothing crazy, but it's just for preparation's sake, to get familiar with what I will then be taking to paint and on a bigger scale. Just something super simple. This isn't some crazy successful drawing. It's just specifically to prepare and get familiar with my subject. And like I said, this drawing specifically isn't mega successful. There's things wrong with the eyes are a little wonky. The nose isn't exactly right. Even some of the values are mixed up. But if you're thinking about this project in its entirety and my agenda to execute, a final painting, this exercise was super successful, familiarizing myself with the proportions, with the composition, the shapes of the values that make up this wonderful portrait. It's just gonna help me even more when I take that next step of painting, just like stretching before a marathon. So that's how I like to work, and to break down these bigger projects or these painting projects into these sections. The more prep work for me just really helps me out when solving the puzzle of painting, which we're gonna start right now. And here we go. So much work and moving around and craziness to just get ready to paint. But this is also the first painting in my new studio that I'm kind of, quote unquote, taking seriously. And so there's gonna be a bunch of experimentation in terms of my setup and, where everything is and just the ebbs and flows of kind of working in a new space. But I got some cadmium red and some yellow ochre just as this little base for the ground, just a little wash over the masonite board to, kind of eradicate the white, because you want to usually paint from a middle tone. People use different colors. This is just a very warm, saturated background, which might, highlight and emphasize the more saturated, warm portrait that I'm going for. And this is the palette, really simple. I like to think this is my own custom palette, obviously not, but I grew up, or the first year plus of oil painting, I used this very limited palette: titanium white, yellow ochre, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and burnt umber. And these other colors are just other colors you can use. You could throw in a warmer red like cadmium red, or like a more opaque blue like cobalt blue. Just what I like to do, but I like to keep the palette small. The calm before the storm. All the emotions, nervous, overwhelmed, excited. It's so fun though, But before we kind of start, I want to talk about actually what we're painting, the portrait of Proko, not just talking about, Proko's new online community, which is really epic, Proko 2.0. He also didn't actually know that I'm painting him. I never told him before this video, so it's a surprise. But the reference itself, there's a few things I want to talk about before we begin. First of all, the portrait or the photo I found online is a very small image. I just happened to find a smaller one. I know this is a younger picture of Stan, handsomely stud Stan, and it's small. So when you scale it up to see it more clearly, obviously it's a little grainy. And I actually like that lack of detail, because innately, one of my issues with painting is I go for the detail too quickly. I don't start loose enough. So innately, this photo without detail is going to help me kind of just focus on the big shapes, and then I'll be able to represent the details and the eyes and whatever on the painting, and that's good practice. As well, similar theme with the color. It's a very digital looking photo. It's a beautiful portrait of Stan's headshot, but it's just yellow, digital. There's not much variety in skin tone, and so that will present me the opportunity as the painter to manufacture my own skin tones and really play around with maybe some reflected light, or just the cohesion of colors and the color harmony within the face, the different colors I'm going to use. I'm excited to do that, and that's kind of taking responsibility as an artist and taking your own step forward and putting in what you want to do. I hopefully the proportions, and it will look identical to Stan, but all of these other elements within the puzzle of painting is kind of under my control, and I like that ability. I think it's good practice. It's really fun, and so I just want to touch on that. Hopefully there's a digital picture of the painting. So now that rant is over, I didn't even know if I should have included that rant, because just a lot of words maybe that aren't super useful or don't mean anything, and I lose people in these videos with those rants. But this is another example of me, sort of this idea of preparation and just putting in time. This is just an outline with paint. This is going to be the final outline. I usually like to, with these more serious projects, have a good rubric instead of just going in alla prima, filling in values and shades. I like to have a good rubric of an outline, a foundation. And you'll see even now, this painting, the outline looks pretty demonic and sloppy, and this is just a super sloppy outline. And I could have remedied this by just actually sketching with a pencil so I can erase, and instead of doing it over again with a paintbrush, I could have just sketched it once. But this is the idea of just putting in hours. I actually like sketching with paint, using a paintbrush and paint as if it were a pencil. I think it's just more good hours with a paintbrush in my hand, even though it's quite sloppy. And Stan here looks pretty demonic, and it just looks off. But I have some shadow shapes in there, and the framework works for me. It kind of works for me. So that's what I did, and that probably took an hour and a half just to set up this sloppy outline. But finally we're kind of ready to paint and ready to fill in some values. And I start with shadows usually, and I'm going for what I thought I was going for, which kind of ends up is this very warm and saturated chroma portrait. Like I said, I have this freedom to kind of do what I want within the complex of the skin, and this painting gives me so much trouble. It's just really, really hard, and I'll talk about that as we move forward. But actually, this whole first layer I did, that was in one day. I streamed on Patreon. I paint live on Patreon every week, whatever project I'm working on, so you can check that out. Just thought I'd mention it. But we're back with the dry layer, just trying to fill in the basic light and dark, a little detail here and there. We'll talk about the teeth later, the biggest oopsie, the biggest challenge, and I kind of botched it. I tried to bring it back and rail it in, but it never ended up kind of coming together. But that's fine, that's just a challenging aspect. But this painting was really challenging for a few reasons, and I talked about it because it's so big. I've never worked this large. All my other portraits are maybe 6 to 8 inches. This was like almost a 13 or 14 inch face, really big, and the bigger scale just provides for more paint, obviously, the volume, but also just, you see the details more, and then I get lost in the details. Even though I was talking about how awesome the photo is, that, maybe I won't get lost, it just was a recipe for me overthinking every little stroke and trying to, represent everything super specifically and not staying loose enough, which is my biggest problem always. But, I think I still rendered some things nicely. I got some cool variety in the colors here in the chin. I'm going back and forth between warm and cool within the core shadow. It's kind of a crazy mess, but like I said, I was just experimenting and having a lot of fun. And so to reset, to sort of take on this painting anew, I'm gonna switch up the setup a little. I'm gonna raise the Masonite board, which is on a pallet, which is on a French cleat. I'm just gonna raise that to stand, and hopefully physically changing my environment will let me focus and execute, and complete this painting in what and how I want to do it. So that perhaps environmentally will change my focus and, make me mix colors differently. I don't know, switching things around. I'm a fan of that, and so that's what we're gonna do. And so yeah, like I said, this is the first kind of bigger, serious project I've worked on in the new studio, new environment. I think there's a lot of feng shui that happens and that I have to learn and kind of feel out. And sometimes I sit. A lot of people ask me if I sit or stand, and I do both. But sometimes standing helps me focus a little more, and that's why I think that, and perhaps it would help me refocus, which maybe it did. But we're ending this portrait off. We're getting to the final stages. I'm just trying to bring some of this light back, because the photo, there was obviously a lot of light, very big spotlight, and I was scared that I was going too white towards the beginning, and then your highlights at the end, or the lights get very chalky. And so I was trying to avoid that by bringing some really high chroma colors, but it was all kind of a mess. And this was just a huge learning experience. I never claimed to be some mega professional. I'm just like a very passionate practitioner, and I'm always trying to learn. And so this portrait, although I, very prepared and I wanted to execute, it was still a big experiment in terms of different styles, using different colors, the bigger format. Everything was just having a blast. And, that's why I love it. And, even being serious. Oh, someone's calling me. Let's end this and see if we can keep recording, because I need to upload this video. But yeah, I'm just a fan of just experimenting and having fun at the same time as trying to improve and work on things. So I think this is a perfect example of that. This is certainly not the best portrait. And right here, you could see the teeth, they're kind of not represented. And now I go in and try to define each tooth. And I think that was my biggest mistake. And I should have kind of just left it as this white blob. You really can't unsee these teeth after, you're looking at them now. And I try to fix them. I try to pull them back. And I thought for some reason I needed all those gum shapes and the separation of teeth when I really probably didn't. But, this is pretty much it. We're getting to the final stages. And I am happy with the totality of this. I think there's certainly places I can improve. But like I said, first big project in the studio, the new studio. Love oil painting. I'm just hungry for more. And I'm recording all of this before Stan. We FaceTime with Stan, so I have no idea what critique he's gonna give me. I think I could guess he might say some stuff about the eyes and the teeth, but other than that, I have no idea, and I'm super excited to chat with him a little. So why don't we chat with Stan?
What up? Can you hear me?
What's up? I can. Can you hear me?
All right, yeah. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just saw your painting of me.
Yeah, what'd you think?
It's good. I love it.
Yeah? Were you surprised?
Dude, well, when you texted me, and you're like, I want you to record your reaction.
Right.
It could be really good, could be really bad. I was totally expecting something obnoxious.
Right, something crazy.
Something crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know how you would respond, but I was thinking of what to paint for this whole project. I was like, you know what,
Yeah.
let's do a young Stan.
But yeah, I got the portrait set up here.
There you go.
By the way, when you see it are you seeing this in reverse?
On the screen on the right, I'm seeing it in reverse. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see anything weird with it when you see it
You know,
in
I
reverse?
sometimes do that. You know,
Yeah.
I could pull it up myself. I didn't. You know, I actually didn't do that, but I know that people do that all the time, and it's honestly smart. Let's
Yeah.
flip mine on my screen.
Yeah, so the eyes, let's see. With the eyes, I'm thinking, for some reason, the weight of them, it feels like my left eye feels really heavy and dark, and then my right eye, screen left,
Yep.
it feels a little light, you know, like they don't match.
Right.
Something's a little off with them. I would probably try to simplify some of the shapes on the right eye.
Right. Yeah. It's the eyes kill me, and especially
Yeah.
with the photo reference. Like I said in the little post that, you know, because it was a little grainy, not the most high res photo, you know, it almost
Yeah.
removed the detail. But then I think just naturally I was trying to search for it, you know, and put it in or thought I needed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you see how like the shadows or the light shapes all around here are very minimal. You see a
Yeah.
really thin piece right here, but
Right.
even that is like really dark halftone.
Yep.
Like it's equal to like something like right here on the cheek.
see
Whereas
that.
on yours, you have some pretty large shapes. You even have two pieces of light. This one's coming up, even a little bit
Yeah.
of light on the inside. And so that's just putting a lot of detail into the shadow area in here, making it feel heavy. And then also look at the shape of the eyebrows. This eyebrow feels like it's going like all the way across.
All the way, right? Yeah.
Whereas this one is actually kind of skinny over here. If you look at it on this one, it's kind of thick up at the top. It's lighter,
yeah.
and so you can create a little transition from the eyebrow to the forehead right here. But it still goes pretty far, and it's thick. Whereas yours is a little skinny, and you don't actually have that light shape, which is actually really nice. Whenever you see a little split in the tone or the value of an eyebrow like that, that's a great way to show that the eyebrow is actually wrapping. Or you
Right,
can't
yeah.
actually even see me. Like it's wrapping around. And it's like a corner, almost like a highlight on the eyebrow.
Right, because it's right by the temple. It's kind of
Yeah,
sticking out right
exactly.
there.
And that happens all the time actually on eyebrows, and people miss that. And it's kind of a nice thing. Look at Stephen Bauman's portraits, and you'll see he does that a lot. He like looks for that little thing.
Yeah,
I noticed that on
he's
his
great.
portraits a lot.
Yeah, he's amazing. So you would say in general, maybe simplify those shadows, specifically in that eye.
Simplify in here a lot more. Like group the shadow shapes together into more of a single shape, and then go in there and add some little subtle notes of lighter. But make sure that those lighter shadow shapes don't pop out too much, that they actually start competing with halftones. But also just like the shape of the eyebrow, just it's too small, and so this feels heavy. This feels light. It's like a little
I see.
unbalanced.
Did that jump out to you immediately?
Actually, the mouth jumped out at me immediately.
Yeah. Oh, it gave me a run for my money. It was.
Yeah,
I
and
probably
you-
spent the most time on it. Still couldn't
It's
like
tough, dude.
resolve it.
You know where you went wrong is in step one, choosing the photo. It's a horrible photo to paint from.
I thought I just loved the shadow. That's for.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little blown out like the photos are sometimes, but I thought
Yeah.
the shadow. That's why I chose it because it was just like.
No,
you
but
know,
what I mean is that
three-quarter.
I'm just showing my entire tube.
Yeah,
Like you
I
can
know.
see you can see the gums at the top.
Right. And there was a
And that's
stage in the painting where I kind of like didn't individually paint the teeth.
Yes.
And I thought that almost looked better, but
It
I was
does
like, you
look
know
better.
what, I
It
should try to push it.
absolutely-
Yeah.
It looks way better. When you look at Sargent, look at his portraits. Or I mean, look at any like real classical. Well, most of them don't even show teeth. But if they
Yeah.
try to find some portraits, maybe look at like Elfgren, some pinups, where a lot, the girls are smiling, but you don't want their teeth to look like their individual,
Yeah.
dentist anatomy models.
It's just super represented, super simply.
Super
yeah,
simple.
I've like never painted teeth even in all these. Like this is like my
probably
first
a good
go.
idea.
Yeah, I've avoided because of that issue, but I was like, you know what, let me
Yeah.
just try to maybe render this a little and just kind of.
Yeah. I mean,
Nip me in the
you
butt.
actually did a pretty decent job though with the teeth because you didn't put really dark separations in between. A lot of people end up just like putting black stripes in between.
Right, similar to even like the separation of fingers sometimes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like you
Blend
don't
them
need
together.
that. Yeah. Right.
But still, I feel like the teeth just they just pop out too much.
Yeah.
I would knock them back a little bit.
Okay.
But I mean, you did a pretty decent job though of the general light and darks. I mean, you did shift most of it. I think what happened is the details didn't shift completely. Like
Yeah.
you kept too much of those lights through to the end. I
maybe-
know that's kind of a tendency with painting, is that like you want to emphasize everything. Everything looks
Yeah.
like an interesting shape, and you're like, ooh, that's
Especially
cool.
when
I'm
you're
gonna
this
emphasize
close
that.
to it, you know, throughout
Yeah.
the painting process. You're like,
Yeah.
everyone's going to see it this close. I need to make sure this, transition or whatever is.
Yeah.
So I get lost in that for sure.
Definitely, yeah, we get tunnel visioned on that one spot we're working
Yeah.
on, and that one
Yeah.
spot is the hero for those 15 minutes. And we got to
Yep.
make sure we make that the hero.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah,
That's
you gotta
why
back up.
I'd always try, tell myself, paint as far away as I can, or always step back every 10 minutes. It's hard though. You get sucked into the little spots, especially if it's a miniature puzzle within the puzzle. And it's funny, I said that in the video, like I'm excited that it's not high detail because it will actually help me, not get lost in details. I'm so classic. It's exactly what happens.
Well, I mean, there's a difference.
Paradox.
Details and edges are a
Right.
different thing, right?
Yeah.
So, definitely you didn't, I don't think you got lost in the details. It's more so the edges are too sharp in this whole area, and too sharp in like some of these areas around the eyebrows and the hair.
Yeah.
But other than that,
No,
I
I
always
love it.
feel like a jerk critiquing people.
Oh man, I need this, and that's what it's so funny talking about Proko 2.0. It's like I'm a perfect kind of candidate because I was in an atelier for like 9 months where I
Nice.
painting all day, and it was like extreme feedback loop. Watching people, getting opinions from everyone, and it like totally jettisoned not only my confidence but just helped me learn. And so now that I left the atelier to do YouTube and do it on my own and all the videos and stuff, and I, have zero of that feed loop now. But that's what's awesome about Proko, and I think it's so important, even once a month, someone looking at a few of my paintings or this, it just like reaffirms the things, that, could be fixed or to help make paintings more successful. I'm such a fan and I need it more.
Nice, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're gonna be in there, posting
Me
your stuff
too.
in the community.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome.
And hopefully there will be other artists in the studio. That's like one of my goals, is to have like a more artist community or host figure drawing sessions and hire models so that I could have my own little
Oh, cool.
SLEW
Nice.
feedback
Yeah, you just moved in.
loop,
So how big is your space now?
So it's about 2,000 square feet. That's pretty
What,
open.
a single room? 2,000?
Yeah, 2,000 big square, and then I got a little podcast studio. So it's quite big.
Nice.
In
That's
for
big.
Yeah, for a good reason to have people in. I really want to do bi-weekly figure drawing sessions and things like that, and maybe in
That's
the future
awesome.
this summer, because I'm still setting up. But that's the plan, totally, to be like a resource for myself, obviously, but for people in Brooklyn and my friends,
Yeah.
or the little artist community.
That's cool, man. Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's exciting. I'm
I
really excited for
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. Yeah, big
Yeah.
moves. It's a lot of work, but we're getting there.
Big boobs? What?
Big moves. Big moves. Large.
Yeah, man, big boobs.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But I appreciate it, Stan, really.
Yeah.
This was an awesome video collaboration. I'm glad that you were able to look at my painting. It's totally
Yeah.
treat full circle, because I've been watching your videos for years. Like I said, I think I told you a while ago, but
Yeah, no, that's great. That's cool
Mm-hmm.
to hear. It's cool to hear. Now you're a pro. Now you're
oh,
doing
far
your
from
thing.
it, my friend.
I
Far
mean, look
from
at
it.
your studio.
Well, I'm trying to, the content creation, but I take it very, it's weird. I have compartments in my life, videography and editing or entertaining, you could say, is a big one, but painting and the category of, we'll say, naturalistic oil painting versus like more stylized, cartoony characters I do, I separate them very distinctly. And the
Yeah.
whole oil painting practice is like the language I'm always trying to get better at forever. And it's almost like the uncreative sector of my fine arts, because it's kind of just like we were talking draftsmanship and replicating nature and using the tools, speaking the language, rather than being like a super creative, artsy fartsy guy. It's like training that I try to pursue in my personal time.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Yeah, I think it's good though that you have those two sides of it, where you're doing some more cartoony, really stylized stuff, and the more traditional stuff, because it keeps you from going too much into one. Like both of those things can help the other.
Totally, I think they
like
affect each other
absolutely.
without doubt. Yeah, and they help each other, or they, give insight to each other for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
All right, well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm literally looking forward to following your stuff and just seeing where you go and where you progress. Where do you think you're gonna go in like 5-10 years? Like, are you going more towards the cartoony stuff or more towards like this fine art like?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, that's could you answer that in 5-10 years? I think I'm just.
I can, yeah, for myself, yeah.
Okay. Well, so you're saying with my practice? I don't know. That's a good question. I want to do a lot of things. I want to start a podcast. I want to continue the content creation. I want to become a hub. But personally, yeah, I want to do bigger compositional paintings. Like
nice.
Another thing I talk about is like 80%, I would say, of my like oil painting practice is very just like sketching, oil sketches, really just practice. And then the 20% are actual big projects that I'm trying to execute, like this Dutch boy that I dressed up as, or like the big King Arthur painting. So I'm trying to do more like full executed projects, not just little live stream painting sketches, which is good practice and I think vital. But do you know what I mean?
That might not be a bad thing. I mean, you should definitely start transitioning towards more bigger projects. Because 2080 at your point might actually be too heavy on the sketches.
Yeah.
But like 2080 for somebody who's starting out, I think is actually really good. Like more quick stuff, turn around, like get you that mileage in. But for you, you're definitely way more advanced, and you could start doing full projects, bring to completion, because you need more of that, like, that subtlety work now that you have to spend 15 hours, 20 hours, whatever, on a piece in order to even be able to make those little subtle judgments on a piece. Oh, shoot.
Perfect way to end. Lumix camera.
My battery died.
It's okay. That's perfect. All right, Stan. Appreciate it again, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing the video.